Hey guys, King of Charmanders here. Okay, so I found probably the most powerful anti-meta pick in the Little Cup. Now, it's extremely ridiculous. I know, it sounds really ridiculous, but hold on. I got the data to back it up. So I was thinking to myself one day, I was like, what is something that can beat Wynaut, Bronzor, and Deino without having to be up a shield? Because if you noticed, in a lot of scenarios where you have to beat Deino, all three of them, in order to beat all three of them, you need to be at least up a shield with whatever matchup it is. Like, even things like Cottony gets destroyed by Bronzor. So, Cottony gets destroyed by Bronzor. Let's see, Wynaut can't take on Cottony. It's all over the place for anti-meta. However, I think I found something that might actually be worth looking into. So, enter Drifloon. I know it's ridiculous, right? We just had a Halloween event, so you think you would have saved one of these around for your box? Did I mention this just came out? It's for the Halloween event, so you might, if you do have one saved, you might want to look into it. So, Drifloon is interesting. It's ghost and flying type. So the thing about Drifloon is that it has a very high stamina and kind of a high attack stat. Not high, like high for the Little Cup. It maxes out at 1,197 CP, so it's not like super close to maxing out for the Little Cup. However, it does have Hex, and it has a very good moveset. The thing about Drifloon is that with Hex, it generates energy quickly. What other move does Drifloon have? Icy Wind. Hex got buffed. We have Icy Wind. Icy Wind can take out dragons. So I was like, can Drifloon take out Deino? So that's my biggest wonder. So we're going to test out and we're going to pull Drifloon across the entire meta. But I think I found something that can actually contend with BBML. Alright, so Drifloon, as you see here, it's weak to Dark, Electric, Ghost, Ice, and Rock types. Horrible, right? Yes. If you get a Cottony, it's going to suck, but you know what? If you get a Cottony, it's going to suck. However, as you see here, you resist fighting, you resist bug, ground, normal, grass, poison. There's a ton of resistances. Also, you do resist Mud Slap. So, Mud Slap that normally takes out Bronzor, you do resist that ×2. Or, it's double resisted. So, that, you do heavily resist Wynaut. So, you essentially will wall Wynaut with Drifloon. Like, it can't do anything. You don't even have to shield anything. So, it takes out Wynaut. This thing also absolutely destroys Bronzor. So Bronzor doesn't, because of Hex's energy generation, and because Drifloon is semi-thick because of its stamina, it's able to actually take out Bronzor in all shield scenarios, and we're going to review that shortly. It's pretty underrated. It's pretty underwhelming, of course. It's a freaking Drifloon. I mean, I didn't think of it until I started contemplating. I was like, what's something that's kind of like off the wall? And I'll tell you how I figured it out later. So, Drifloon power maxes out at around level 14 or 15, so it doesn't actually take a lot of dust to power up. Unless you were talking about second move here, because its second move actually costs 700,000 dust, so it does cost a little bit too. Now, the good thing is you can actually get this from, like, research, and like I said, there was just a Halloween event, so you might have this just laying around your bag somewhere. It does also have a very sweet shiny, so if you do have a sweet shiny Drifloon available for the Little Cup, I sound very jealous because I am. It's solid freaking gold. It's amazing. It's such a beautiful color. You probably really, really wanted it during the Halloween event. Alright, so as you see here, Drifloon sports at number 18. That is a very nice closer number. Now, it's really awkward. It doesn't seem to be that powerful. However, look at its ratings against Shaman and Wynaut. Very strong against these two. And if you look at the ratings that it loses against Deino, Cottony, it loses against Bronzor, Deino, Cottony. Now, this is in shield scenario, so it does lose against Deino, but we're going to go over that in the Matrix. I'm going to show you what scenario it beats Deino in. So you can probably trap Deino in this scenario, but I'll show you in a bit. So it does, it's very awkward. Now I'm going to show you there's probably a way you can utilize Drifloon to your advantage. 18 isn't that bad. It does sport itself very strong against a lot of the meta. As you see, Drifloon is a number 28 lead. Does take on Shelmet, Wynaut, Skorupi, Darumaka. It does lose against some viable BBML, but as you see here in the closer, it can actually beat Wynaut and Deino. Wait, what? Yeah, it actually beats Deino in the closer. So you don't actually need to have a shield. You don't need to have a shield to beat a Deino. You can beat a Deino in the zeros. You can beat Bronzor. I believe you beat Bronzor in the 2s. And you completely wall Wynaut. So Drifloon doesn't need to have shield advantage. It just has to be in even shield scenarios against what it's fighting. Or just in the 2 to 2s to be exact with Bronzor. We'll go over it soon. As a switch, Drifloon range set in 106. You don't want to use Drifloon as a switch. If I had to rate it, the strategy I'm about to tell you utilizes Drifloon in closer, because we want to trap it with a certain little dragon. So, as you see here, we're going to go over the matrix short. Alright, so here we have Drifloon, Hex, Icy Wind, Shadow Ball. That's the recommended moveset. You don't want to deviate from it. Here we have the Little Cup meta. I have my own little custom meta right here file that I popped in. So that's the top 20 of the Little Cup meta, and we fire a battle, and as you see, we get the results. So this is the 2 shield. As you see in the 2 shield, you do lose against Deino. However, you beat Bronzor and Wynaut. So as you see, it has a very strong rating against Wynaut. Now you do lose against Charmer and Dark types. However, Drifloon, we're here to target the meta. As you see here, it does lose against a lot of things in the lead. That's why you don't want to use Drifloon in the lead. For this strategy, we're going to utilize Drifloon in the closer. As you see, Drifloon does lose a lot of things in the 2 shield just because it's very oppressive. However, if you target you do beat all the ground types. You even beat Chinchou. You also beat Barbo, Shelmet, Wooper. So you beat very relevant things. It's kind of like a 50-50 in the lead. So I wouldn't lead with it. However, if you get this thrown into your Bronzor, so if your opponent throws a Bronzor into you, or if you lead against Bronzor, you're pretty well, because you actually win that. You win the 2 shields. Now we go to the 1 shield. So we beat Bronzor in the 2s. The 1 shield, we beat Wynaut regardless. So we'll beat Wynaut regardless. As you see in the 1 shield, things get a little dicey, but you still beat a lot of relevant meta. Like I say here, Turtwig, Chinchou, Cubone, Pulpix, 50-50 as well. Now in the zeros. In the zeros, it's where things get interesting. In the zeros, you actually beat Deino and Wynaut. So you beat Bronzor's in the 2s, Deino's in the zeros, and you just absolutely destroyed Wynaut. So you don't actually need a shield to beat... You don't need shield advantage to beat Bronzor. If you have shield advantage, you actually beat it, and you can beat Deino in the zeros. So as long as you take Deino to the zeros, or you have energy advantage, you can take out Deino. So there are ways you can take out Deino, and it walls Wynaut, and you beat Bronzor in the 2s. So you actually beat some of the meta. It's not super encompassing like Bronzor. Nothing is going to absolutely dominate the way Bronzor does. We already know that. You've probably seen several videos about it. Bronzor is a monster, and that's no exception. Now, Upper Shield is where it gets interesting. As you see, Upper Shield, you beat the entire BBML. Yes. So you beat the entire BBML. So a strategy you can actually use is put Drifloon in the back. Hopefully you trap that Deino in the back. And you actually wipe out the entire BBML 1-0. The only other Mon that can do this is probably Bronzor. Probably Bronzor. So as you see here in the 1-0s, Drifloon actually beats the entire BBML. So Drifloon is actually, if you leave Drifloon with a shield, it can, if you can take away your opponent's shields, leave Drifloon with a shield, or leave Drifloon in even shield scenarios with Bronzor, you can actually beat the entire BBML. So there's a lot of things you can do with Drifloon. Along with that, you have Icy Wind. So Icy Wind can make you do a lot of plays. As you see here, you're probably going to see a lot of Lickitungs, etc. However, you do lose against Dark and Ice types still, so just keep that in mind. But you have your other 2 Pokemon to cover for that. But it's still up a shield that does win against a sizable amount of the Little Cup. Especially what we're looking at here. Up a shield. On the 1-0s, you beat the BBML. The 2-0s, it's even more interesting. Well, in the 2-0s, you're still going to lose against Connie. And Shadow's going to tank, just because Hex. But you still beat all of the BBML, and you beat a majority of the meta. The only 2 you actually lose against are Cottony and Stunky. So as long as you remove Cottony, you're pretty dang good. Same thing with Shadow Stunky. You don't actually beat Shadow Stunky in any scenario, just because it essentially walls you. So just be careful of those 2 Pokemon. However, if you take out the Cottony or the Shadow Stunky, or you're able to take out both of these, and just leave the balloon with shield advantage, or you leave it, like I said, in the even shield scenario. So in the 2s with Bronzor, and in the 0s with Deino in the closer, you can actually beat the BBML. So this is a very, like, I would say low-key. As you see, in the 2-to-1s, as long as you have shield advantage, you actually beat the BBML. You'll beat Bronzor, Deino, Wynaut. Up a shield. So there's no other Pokemon that I know of that actually beats all 3 of these. Like, just being up shield advantage. So Drifloon is a fantastic anti-meta pick. However, you do have to, like, I can see it being extremely difficult. Well, not extremely difficult, but being difficult to play. For example, if you throw a Drifloon to a Bronzor, they're be like, wait, what? You actually win that matchup. So, Drifloon does actually break the meta, like the complete meta. There are, now it's not all-encompassing like Bronzor, however, there's no other meta pick that I've seen that actually, like, wins in these scenarios. So, it's really interesting that Drifloon is just such a beast. Of course, you're going to lose against Igglybuff, Munchlax, Stunky Shadow. I don't foresee seeing a lot of... Igglybuff's expensive. Munchlax, you can't actually get a low-level Munchlax unless you get it traded to you by another person or an account. So you can only get a low-level Munchlax for Look Up being traded. So you can kind of roll out Munchlax. You can also, you might be able to see Lickitung. I don't know who's going to power up a Lickitung for the Little Cup, to be honest with you. So you can kind of leave those two off. The 2 ones you have to be concerned about is Cottonee and Stunky. So these two Cottonee doesn't completely wall you if you look on the simulator. However, you kind of have to be careful for it. You will lose against it, but you have a strong rating except for the 2 shields. So you can let Drifloon go, and then you can actually farm the Cottonee in the back. As you see here, Cottonee only has 14 energy, so you can let Drifloon go, and then as you see, you can actually farm down Cottonee, whatever you have in the back, and then take it out. So there's, like I said, this Drifloon is looking to be a monster, because this is the only thing that actually beats the entire BBML in certain scenarios, and you don't need shield advantage. So, like I said, you have to kind of use Drifloon to target, like, in certain scenarios. But if you do get it, it's just a monster. So we're going to go to the 0s here. As you see here, like you see, in the 0s, you beat Deino and Wynaut. In the even 1 shield, you beat Wynaut. And in the 2 shield, so as long as you don't leave Drifloon in the 1 shield, you can actually beat the entire BBML. So in the 2s, you'll beat Bronzor. In the 1s, you beat Wynaut. Well, you'll always beat Wynaut. And in the 0s, you can take out Deino. So if you can do some, like, crazy realignment or shield taking shot, you can actually beat the entire BBML. You'll even beat Bronzors in the 1 to the 0s. So there's some really interesting plays you can do with Drifloon. Drifloon is a monster. It's the reason why it is in fact a pretty dang good anti-meta pick, because things that go against Bronzor, with the exception of Stunky, you still take out Mudslap losers. So things that Mudslap you have a very strong rating. As you see, that's why Cubone has an 800 rating. However, it's gonna be very tricky to play. Alright, like I said, Drifloon can be a fantastic anti-meta pick. It looks to be very good. It's the reason why I'm iffy, like, the reason I like it a lot is because we just had the Halloween events. You probably have one laying around in your box, so you're probably not thinking about to trade this thing or something like that. You might have something. You might have a low level one lying around. We just had an event, so it might be here. Along with that, Bronzor is one of the most powerful things in the game. So having an event that just came out, Drifloon is maybe readily available. You might not have one, but it's very likely you can either obtain one pretty easy, or like someone's saving one, so you can just like trade it to him. But Drifloon is the only mon in the anti-meta spectrum that doesn't need to be in the 2-to-1s, or it doesn't need to have shield. Like I said, it doesn't need shield advantage. It can win in even shield scenarios. And in the 1-to-0s, it can actually, if you take them down in the 1-to-0s or the 2-to-1s, you win as long as if you have shield advantage, you win. I'm gonna describe it now, because here's Bronzor. So Bronzor, as you see, in Bronzor, you'll beat Bronzor with the 1s, and you beat it in the 2s. So as long as you're up shield advantage right here, you'll also beat it in the 2-to-1s or the 2-to-2s. So as long as you have shield advantage versus Bronzor, you beat Bronzor. Or if you're in the 1-to-0s. If you're in the 0 shield, you can beat on 1-2s. You beat Deino. You'll beat Deino in the 1 and the 0 shield scenario. So as long as you take down 1 shield from Deino, you actually beat Deino. 1-to-0s. And then against Wynaut, you don't have to worry about Wynaut, because guess what? You wall Wynaut. So this Mon is very powerful against the BBML. There's a lot, like I said, having shield, if it has shield advantage, as you see, you beat Wynaut in the 2-to-1s. Here's Deino in the 2-to-1s. And here's Bronzor in the 2-to-1s. As you see, you beat them as long as you're in the 2-to-1s. As you see, Drifloon has very good matchups against the meta. A good strategy you could probably do is literally just get that 2-to-1 scenario and then try to draw out their Bronzor or something like that, and you actually can like wipe out their BBML. Drifloon can beat all the BBML without having to have shield advantage, as long as you know what scenarios you beat, which is pretty nuts. Along with that, Hex generates energy quickly. Icy Wind nerfs your opponent's attack. It's really interesting. Now, there's some cons to it. You have to be careful of Cottony, because Cottony is another anti-meta pick that's flying around, and you lose in all scenarios. So it doesn't matter what you do, just because Cottony is going to charm you down. So Cottony is one of the things you want to take out. Same thing with Stunky. Stunky is another anti-meta pick. So in other words, you have to... This is the anti-meta where it has to watch out for anti-meta. But if people are running anti-meta, it's because they're targeting meta. So you know, that's why if you get what I'm talking about. Anyways, Drifloon is the most... In my opinion, Drifloon looks to be one of the most powerful anti-meta picks. That kind of the only... Okay, so here's how I found it out. Here's how I discovered it. I went to Drifloon, I put a Bronzor, and then I look up where it was below. So I look up Bronzor, and I look up the like the 2 shield, and then as soon as I look up the 2 shield and I go to the little cup, this is what I see is Bronzor's greatest weakness, or like it like loses against. You see, you have you have all this right here, and then you get Drifloon. So I was like running down the list, and I was like, Drifloon? I was like, Ghost Flying, resist counter. I'm like, Icy Wind. Icy Wind can possibly take out Deino, and then that's how I found out. Anyways, like I said, I like Drifloon a lot. Now, I was hoping that there'd be like some training sims so that I could actually like play, but no, you can't. So Drifloon looks to be really good for the little cup. Like I said, it's not very expensive to power up. It only levels up at level 15. Its second move's at 75. So you can give some practice and check it out. But Drifloon looks to be really, really good as an anti-meta pick. Now, the reason I don't rate it like a 10 or like an 8 or a 9, even though it's like this, it's just because it's going to be difficult to play. Because like I said, there are anti-meta picks that do beat Drifloon really hard. However, Drifloon is, if you specifically target the meta, there's no other Mon that beats it in like the 2-to-1s or the 1-to-0s. Or there are scenarios where you don't have to have that shield advantage like I talked about. Anyways, if you guys have any questions, just put in the comments. Please unsubscribe if you like this video. But yes, Drifloon looks like to be one of the most powerful anti-meta picks for the top 3 Pokemon in the Little Cup.